Hey, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 502 being recorded on June 6th, 2018. I'm Ryan Schrow.
I'm Jeremy Hallstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
And I'm Ken Addison.
It is the week of Computex.
Yay.
You know, I used to say during this week, and usually I'm over in Taiwan, blah, 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 but I actually haven't gone, and I think this is my 5th year, maybe.
No, 7th year.
No,
2011 was the last time you went.
no.
It's the only time I went. We have this discussion every year.
Yeah, and you're wrong every time. I'm sure I've gone since then.
2011.
It hasn't been 7 years. I'll check my passport later.
You got a new passport since then.
I still have the old passport. It has a hole through it.
Didn't ritually burn it?
No. You know, selling it as a memento. It's going in the Shrout Museum at some point, I believe.
The Presidential Museum.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yes. Computex is the Taipei-based hardware show, computer show, that is more consumer-centric than most, right? And it's more component-centric than most. You know, it used to be when you go to CES in Vegas, you'd see cases and stuff like that. And now you don't. And that's fine. But Computex is still that. InWin is still there. Silverstone is still there.
Almost
All
like
those
that's
companies
where
are
the
still
majority of the companies are based.
there. Yeah, it's weird. It's very convenient for them. It's very convenient.
It doesn't cost much to ship cases across town as compared to Las Vegas.
Correct. Correct.
Plus, it's
and
not
people.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, and people, and they don't have to get hotels for them in Las Vegas, and so we've got a lot to get through, so we'll jump through that. Some of it will be quick. We'll point you to the websites for more information, et cetera, as we go. But let's first start with, hey, we're live at PCPer.com/live. And if you want to join us, you can do so Wednesday nights.
I'd like to join you.
You can join me. And Josh, I'd prefer you be a little bit earlier than Wednesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific.
I'll try to do my best. You know, Frontier flies direct Denver to Cincinnati.
Yeah, no, I heard they just canceled that flight tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
I better put on some glasses that are not so shiny so I can see you better, so I can hear you better.
What is this thing? Who is this? Wait, go back to that.
Know.
Who was that guy?
That's weird.
You always look,
Superman?
People always look like they have smaller eyes when they take their glasses off.
I feel aroused. Quick, put it back on. Put it back on.
I can't see what's going on.
If you want to hang out in our chat room and talk with us and, I don't know, do the things that people do in the chat room, you can go to PCPer.com/live at those times. And if you need a little reminder, you can go to PCPer.com/subscribe, which is this page here that asks for your name and your email address. And all we do is send you an email, an hour, 2 hours before we do a live stream. I have just started let's see. I'm past the beginning stages because we have approvals. Now we're into the scheduling phases of 2 additional live streams, non-podcast related. 2 additional live streams that will have people coming here to visit us, tell us about their stuff, to tell you about their stuff, and give away hardware at the same time. So that's always important.
I can tell you about my stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
It may not be the stuff that you want to hear about.
You have to
but
come
I
out
can
to
tell
Cincinnati
you about
and tell me. And
Then you have to give it away.
It's kind of crazy because I got this cream for it, and I'll tell you later.
Okay. All right.
Pick of the week.
I can't wait for that live stream. So go to that page and do that thing. We still have our Patreon campaign running. That is at patreon.com/PCPer. This is where you can go to, it's not exactly donate, but contribute to what we do on a regular recurring monthly basis. It could be $1 a month or $3 or 10 or 20. And we greatly appreciate all that. This is, if you like the content we create, you think the podcast we do is interesting, the mailbags are good, anything like that. If you run an ad blocker and you want to just make sure that we're still around in a month from now to do another episode of this show and all that, we greatly appreciate it. And as is always the case, anybody who becomes a new patron during the show, I will read out your name and thank you. So thank you. And we have one now. We have a new pledge of $9.99 from, isn't it incredible?
$9.99. Thank you.
So isn't it incredible? Definitely gets the Computex time frame that we're in here. So great. Speaking of mailbags, if you want to check out the mailbag that the Patreon enables, you can see last week's episode with Josh himself. The episode title is Stimulants Needed Edition. And I didn't want to know. So I didn't watch it. Josh, was it good? Was it great?
Oh no, it was awful. I mean, look at the state of my office.
I mean, look at the state of your
My
office
child
now.
threw a grenade in
Can
there,
we switch back to the live shot,
and it actually
please?
cleaned it up.
All right, now switch back to the video and then the live shot.
Wow, it's worse.
The keyboard's disappeared.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what you were trying
My
to fool
wife
with
does
here.
amazing things with her desk.
Yeah, it's hard
I'll
desk.
blame
That's
it on
the
her.
issue here,
It's not
not
those
the
Ripper-
rest of the
Some of those Ripper
background.
boxes I've been there have at least 18 months.
They have at least an inch and a half of dust on them by now.
Yeah.
No, I do dust now and then.
You dust the boxes.
Yes,
Around the
because
box.
that is where dust accumulates.
Do you move the boxes or just dust over them?
No, because Ripper XX it's an ongoing advertisement for these mouse pads.
You've been getting paid all this time, and damn it,
What
I'm
the
angry
shit?
now.
Maybe
We still have
Yeah.
our merch store at joshtech.com. That's JOSHTEKK.com. You can buy Death Wish Raid, Hot Dog Down a Hallway, Super Pipe. You could get this PCPer logo t-shirt, the same shirt I'm wearing today, mind you, which I've worn this a few times here,
Yeah.
right? And my wife looks at me at dinner tonight and goes, "Is that a new shirt?" No, it is
is
not.
it comfortable?
Yes, it is very comfortable.
Is
Look
it
how
good
comfortable
quality?
I am.
Whoa.
Yeah.
How is the
I
stitching?
remember. I think I got the medium one. I think I got the premium tee. I got the Hanes tagless, right? And I prefer thicker t-shirts.
Yeah.
Ken prefers like the thinner, softer stuff. I like sandpaperish. This is not a sandpaperish type shirt,
Rubs
but I
on
like
your nipples.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's $50, by the way, for anyone who wants it.
For the sandpaper.
That's extra.
For the sandpaper. And also, don't forget, we do have the Josh Tech accessories, like the Josh Tech mug that I believe you're drinking out of currently, right?
No, I've
No.
got a.
Alex's. You can
Oh,
have
okay.
Josh Walrus with his racing wheel, and you can get a T-shirt of that. You can get a poster of that. It's all very exciting, and proceeds go there. And if you go now, delivery before Father's Day with rush shipping. So
You get at least 10 extra FPS in your racing games if you're wearing this
at
t-shirt.
least,
Yeah, at least.
yeah, agreed. So check that out. Again, that's Josh Tech, JOSHTEKK.com.
Just to,
KK.
All right. Before we get into the reviews, we do have another new patron from Christopher Williams for $1. Thank you very much, Christopher Williams. We welcome any and all who help us out. Greatly appreciate it. All right. So we've got some reviews here. The XPS 15 2-in-1 Logitech G Pro. We're going to be succinct here because the real focus of this week is Computex.
Yeah.
Apologies to the XPS 15 2-in-1 and the Logitech G Pro, but the reviews are on the website with a lot of words and graphs and stuff anyway for exactly this occasion. So the XPS 15-inch 2-in-1 is a Kaby Lake G machine that Ken reviewed.
one of two notebooks with Kaby Lake G.
It has this chip in it. This is the CPU. This is the GPU. This is the HBM2 memory.
So informative.
Thank you. So the XPS 15 is a machine that's been around for a while, but this is the first iteration of it as a 2-in-1, right?
Yeah, so we saw Dell introduce the XPS 13 2-in-1 a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe at this point.
Yeah.
So they've kind of been branching out the XPS line to add these additional 2-in-1 SKUs, and this is the first sort of take on the larger size.
Okay. Spec-wise, we're looking at Kaby Lake G from all the way down to $1299 up to $2199. Only the top SKU gets the 4K screen, but the top two get the Core i7-8705G versus the Core i5-8305G. What's the difference between those two processors? It's GPU core count, right? CU
No,
count.
they both have the GL graphics. It's on the
okay.
CPU side. I think it's frequency on the CPU side.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I see that. They both have the Vega M GL graphics, 4 gigs of memory, 8 versus 16 gigs. So there's tons of different configurations here. It's got that Infinity Edge display, which is great, except for the camera placement still.
Yeah, it's better now that's in the middle. It's a Windows Hello camera, and it works decently well for Hello. There's still the fingerprint sensor embedded in the sort of power button of the laptop, which is kind of the preferred way to use Hello on these new XPS machines. Because again, with that middle bottom webcam, you still don't always get the right place when you're opening up the laptop, even for face login.
Let me ask you guys a question unrelated to this specific product. Do you see a lot of people with things over their cameras on their laptops?
Yeah.
I see a ton of people
Every day.
Even people who work at these companies. Say I was visiting a laptop manufacturer recently, and I was at some meetings with them, and a surprisingly high percentage of their own employees had stickers or labels. They weren't using like cheap Post-it notes or something like that, but they
I like
had
the slidable
something
ones.
over. Yeah, people give those away as like tchotchke
Swag.
gifts now. Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was interesting. Obviously defeats the purpose of Windows Hello Camera if you keep your cameras covered the whole time. And it has a new keyboard as well.
Yeah, it's what they're calling their maglev keyboard design. It's using butterfly switches. This is pretty analogous to what Apple did with the modern MacBooks, the 12-inch MacBook and the MacBook Pro. So it's sort of it's a design where every corner of the keycap moves and can actuate the button essentially. So you don't have to press down in the center like you do on most chiclet-style keyboards. You can kind of activate the key anywhere. It has an even activation and is very thin, which is a sort of key thing in this notebook is the short Z height.
Yeah.
So they could keep some of the thickness down on the laptop.
Yeah, they claim that because of the thermals of the design, they needed to make the keyboard thinner. The maglev came up as part of that. It's, as the name implies, it's using magnetic levitation that's what pushes the key back up after you depress it.
If you fold the machine around, I think the keys retract.
Yes, so the magnets can, they basically reverse their polarity or whatever. You know, like
Star Wars.
Like my dilithium.
Just like Star Wars phasers and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's nothing I like better than putting magnets right close to electronic devices.
These are very tiny magnets.
They're very tiny electronics.
They probably didn't think about that during design and qualification at all.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not at all.
They just stuck that keyboard in at the last minute.
What did you think about using the keyboard?
I'm not a big fan of the keyboard. It has sort of a similar feel to the modern MacBook keyboards, like I said, which people generally aren't a fan of.
Yeah.
I think this has a little less tactility than those do even. It's not great.
Right.
For the XPS line, which has had great keyboards, and the XPS 13 2-in-1 kept the same great keyboard of the XPS 13, it's kind of disappointing to see compromise on the keyboard here.
Yeah.
It's something you could get used to, but
they trumpet it up as technological innovation, which I'm sure it is, but it's like you're still kind of regressing the keyboard, right? And this was their attempt to make up for it. Trackpad was pretty good though.
Yeah, same sort of Windows Precision enabled trackpad we see on all the XPS lineup. It's a great option.
It's got a magnetic stylus option there. Connectivity, you've got Thunderbolt, USB Type A, micro SD,
and standard headphone jack. It's 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports and then 2 USB 3.1 Gen 2 ports.
Okay. Comes with the HDMI adapter, right?
Not HDMI. USB Type-C to Type A. That's one thing that Dell has continued to do and is amazing. They should absolutely continue to do for the rest of time.
I love how they always call it a monitor port.
Really?
Yes, almost always.
Great.
It'll even have like a little picture of monitor on it so you can put your dock there.
It does have a pretty big power adapter, 130 watts, which, stands out in the XPS line, but that is because of its, Kaby Lake G, 100
you absolutely need to
system design.
Hit the power draw of that power adapter. It seems larger than a lot of sort of similar power adapters, like the Surface Book 2 brick was a similar power and smaller. It takes up a lot of space in your bag. I know you spent some of the time with this laptop, and it's big. It's a bit cumbersome.
It's big, and it's the XPS 15 2-in-1 is not particularly light.
No, it's not. It's not a thin and light 2-in-1.
Give me the standout on performance. CPU 1 and the GPU 2nd.
So CPU wise, it actually is, interestingly enough, fairly even with the XPS 13 9370 with the 8th gen quad core hyper-threaded 8550U in it. So the 15 watt part is kind of more where CPU performance lies. Except if you look at sort of sustained performance.
Right. This is here you're looking at CPU frequency.
Yeah. So you can see there's a pattern to the clock speed. It's like it'll clock out for a little bit and it knows its fan curve. So it will sort of, we're looking at a chart of CPU frequency scaling here. So it's like kind of has this sawtooth wave pattern of clocking up and clocking down. It's not exactly a smooth, transition, and the
power does the same.
Yeah, the power delivery to the CPU follows the same pattern. So it's like the thermal solution definitely can't handle the CPU at full tilt at high frequencies for an extended period of time.
So you're saying that if you can't handle the heat at its best, you can't.
You don't
You're
deserve
not
it
going to
at
finish
its
that for me?
worst.
No,
you
no,
don't
I'm not.
deserve this laptop at its worst. Yeah.
You're bad at meme.
Bad.
I don't like it. Gaming wise, where did it look, or how did it look?
So we did two comparisons here. We did it compared to some notebooks, namely the Surface Book 2 with the GTX 1050. We took a look at a couple of weeks ago, and the Acer Swift 3 with the HN 15-watt part and the MX 150. And the performance is nearly identical to the 1050 in the Surface Book 2, essentially. Like,
that's the gray bar and the orange bar.
Neck and neck. It comes ahead in a couple of scenarios, like you see Dirt Rally there and Far Cry, which Far Cry kind of makes sense for an AMD GPU. It's a more optimized game for AMD GPUs. But so think GTX 1050 level performance, which is pretty damn good in a laptop of this form factor. And then just out of curiosity's sake, we took a look at it compared to the Hades Canyon Nook, the other Kaby Lake G machine we've looked at. Now that is a processor that it's running at 100-watt TDP. The graphics have more shaders. It's not exactly an equivalent. That's more of a desktop scenario in a Nook. But, I mean, it tends to hold its own. We were playing at 1080p in the highest graphical settings in this test, and you can eke out 30 frames a second. If you turn down some settings, you could do 1080p gaming, modern AAA titles at, we'll say, 45 plus frames per second with pretty good image quality settings.
Battery life, not great.
Pretty damn disappointing.
Yeah.
Didn't crack 6 hours. And it's got a really large battery. It's got a 75 watt hour battery in it.
Yeah, that is disappointing. Pricing wise, it's still pretty expensive, right?
Yeah, we had the highest end configuration, and they even upgraded it to a 512 gigabyte SSD, so it was $2,350 at the time of review. Interestingly enough, you compare it to the new XPS 15 that they just are releasing now.
Like the normal clamshell, non-2-in-1 design,
with the 6-core processors and a GTX 1050 Ti and a 97 watt hour battery, it's about $2,100 for a similar config. So you have to really want the 2-in-1 for this laptop to make sense. And for some people, that will certainly make sense. We haven't had our hands on the new XPS 15, the 9570. There have been some reports of maybe some thermal issues with that one, so I would definitely check out some reviews and wait for us to take a look at it before necessarily jumping into that. But it's an interesting machine. Hope we see more of this stuff from Intel.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll see more from Dell shortly as well. Yeah. So if you want more detail on that one, check out the review. Like I said, it's on the website. It's where we put the reviews. Christopher did a review of the Logitech G Pro gaming headset. I'm going to have you go read this one. This is, it is an analog headset that has an exceptionally good mic. It uses the same drivers as the G933, which are obviously very good. Now they've kind of been brought down to even lower price points, less frills, not a gluttony of buttons or RGBs throughout everything. It's $89.
Yeah. And it's got a sweet mic.
It does, yes. The microphone actually is, according to Chris, one of the best headset mics available.
And it's removable.
Yeah. Yeah. So it did get a gold award from Chris. Like I said, check out that review. It's actually a pretty impressive headset for the cost. It is wired. It's not some of these wireless, fancy, all the capabilities there.
$100. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I would agree. And then also I posted, this is kind of in Computex news, Qualcomm announced the Snapdragon 850, the mobile compute platform is what they're calling it. So this is not a mobile platform, it's mobile compute, which basically means that this is targeted at their Windows department. Now I will gladly tell you that this is in actuality, as we look at, where is this one? This one here. If you look at the specs, all Qualcomm is doing is comparing the 850 to 835. Makes sense. The 835 was what's shipping in their always connected PCs now. However, the 845 and the 850 are basically the same part, except the 850 is running a slightly higher clock speed, like 195 megahertz or something like that, almost 200 megahertz faster.
Makes sense considering the bigger form factor, the additional thermal dissipation,
have more thermal
bigger heat sinks you can build in.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually, despite the similarities between 45 and 50, it's still an interesting performance jump, right? The CPU and the GPU are both about 30% faster from 835 to 850. Battery life goes up. You're more efficient. The modem on the 850 is now the 1.2 gigabit per second versus the 1 gigabit. Obviously, I think that peak speed is less important than getting better performance in low signal areas, which is the other thing that Qualcomm touts about its modems, but it's also just really, really hard to evaluate and test without extremely expensive testing equipment.
Weird.
Yeah. But 30% better performance, that's the primary complaint that people have about these. You got app compatibility, you've got performance concerns. So 850 will actually help with that. They still have acoustic and aptX support, which I think is cool. A lot of the 850 will have aptX HD. So if you get some of those headphones that I know Sebastian has taken a look at least a couple of them, those are supported on these devices. 4K capture, 4K HDR capture. I'm not exactly sure who's going to integrate a 4K HDR
front-facing camera into
front-facing, world-facing, self-facing camera or whatever. But there you have it.
Just don't put it at the bottom of the
support for AI and Windows ML. Yeah, that's true. And then they talk about the Windows 10 April update and improved compatibility. Released the 64-bit ARM 64 SDK. 64-bit Edge browser support. So the application ecosystem is evolving at Computex. Microsoft was on stage at Qualcomm's event talking about that commitment. It was after Terry Myerson left Microsoft, there were a lot of questions about what was the health of this initiative, and apparently it's getting back on track. So that's good. We'll have more on this pretty soon. We'll have devices, I guess by holiday of this year.
Did you mention what the TDP was on that?
They don't really say what the TDP is.
It's probably super configurable still.
Yeah, my assertion is that you're looking in the 5 to 7 watt range, similar to the Intel Y series, which is like a 7.5 watt part.
Yeah, because I think, with a lot of the ARM architectures, once you get above 10 to 15 watts, it's the performance just you can't clock it up anymore.
Seriously diminishing returns. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you look at their clock speeds, like they're hitting 2.95 gigahertz, I think.
And it's pretty good on their process that they're using on that.
But man, 50 more megahertz, guys. Like 50 more megahertz.
That's a curious frequency we'll visit later in the show, I think, for a Snapdragon part.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Oh, well.
So check that out. Like I said, 850. It'll be coming soon, and Qualcomm will have a few more months before they dive more into the devices using this. So pay attention. All right, now we're getting into the Computex news itself. If you followed the show, we didn't talk about it last week. This all happened in the span of a week. That I think that we had written about.
Well, we talked about rumors of this. I think we mentioned it last week as well.
Yeah. Well, the Core i7 8086K is official now.
It's only been rumored for a while.
Yeah. It is it's a Coffee Lake part, 6-core, 12-thread. It's essentially it's a higher clocked Core i7 8700K. It's running at 4 gigahertz base and 5 gigahertz turbo.
They're those nice even numbers we were referring to.
Yeah, as opposed to 3.7 and 4.7. So it's 300 megahertz faster base, 300 megahertz faster turbo. That's not insignificant. It's still,
almost a horsepower.
Yeah. Same cache, same memory support, PCIe, TDP. Same
Look at those
socket, all that.
PCIe lanes. They're overwhelming.
16 lanes. There is no official pricing yet, I guess. It's supposed to go on sale Friday, I believe.
I know. They're starting the giveaway tomorrow. I don't know when it's supposed to go on sale.
Yeah, 5 o'clock.
They're giving away 50,000 of these processors in celebration.
No, they're not giving away 50,000. They're giving away 8,086 of them.
Oh, right. They're making 50,000.
There's 50,000 available.
Got it.
Yeah, so this is going to be extremely difficult to ever find.
The sweepstakes page lists $425 as the value of the prize.
That's probably
probably right. Like the 8700K is what, 350?
Yeah. 360?
Yeah. So unless Newegg gets a hair up their ass and decides to mark this one up or something.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, they're not sampling media for reviews. Maybe if you were in Taipei and you were shaking the right hands, you could steal a box with one in it or something, but
as long as you take a cute picture of it with some really cool glasses on.
Look, nobody takes cuter pictures of processors than me.
Right.
3 to 7 times better.
Your white balance is Really?
Well, I don't have a choice but to be
So
white in my
white.
pictures. So we'll probably be buying one to see what it does. I'm a little disappointed. I'm not surprised that it's a limited edition, but I'm a little disappointed in that
50,000 units.
50,000 units is a pretty low amount.
Yeah. It's almost like the binning of the 8700K. We now get an insight into.
Yeah. We were debating using this processor on a new GPU test bed, but once we found out it was going to be a limited edition, we were like, nah, we don't want something that we can't replace or that other people won't be able to easily buy to replicate results. So, anybody have any comments? Is anybody disappointed that this isn't an 8-core part, like the magical 8-core part that had been rumored for a little bit?
There is no magical 8-core part. Just get a 2700X and be happy.
Well, that requires a different motherboard.
That would be a Ryzen 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, that motherboard will last you.
It sure will.
Yeah.
So is there any expectation that we'll see a non-limited edition binning of this part after this is done and over
The
with?
8700K.
I doubt it, because I think the lifespan of this platform, this chip, is going to be low, right? And yeah, I don't know. What was the video you were
Intel
just
is in a
watching?
strange place right now. We could go on pretty much ad nauseum about that, but yeah, Coffee Lake is going to last about a year?
Less than that.
I mean, from now or in total?
From now.
No, I don't think it.
Didn't
I
they
don't think
talk
it
in
goes
their
a year.
keynote about new
U series,
Plus?
a new S series by the end of the year is what they said.
I mean,
okay.
it's not going to last that long.
So anyway, 8086, it goes on sale this week as you're listening to this. It's either Thursday or Friday, and there's a sweepstakes to win one of 8,086 of them.
Let's just enter that, and then maybe don't buy one.
If you go to PCPer.com, find the page, you'll have the link.
So if I win, what would you give me for it?
$0.
I'd probably sell it to you for that because
you should. Also at Intel's event at Computex, they had easily the most talked about demonstration at the event.
The most chilling demonstration of the week.
So,
I could mow my lawn with the cooler that they supplied with that.
Yeah.
That would be difficult.
a 1 horsepower motor, I believe is what he's referring to.
Yeah.
But,
Yes.
So I had been hearing rumblings that Intel thought AMD was going to do a higher core count part demo, and AMD thought Intel was going to do one. And so there was this debate internally about whether or not they were going to show stuff. Yeah. So Intel's press conference was first. So they decided to jump whole hog in this, right, and go with a 28 core processor running at 5 gigahertz on all cores. And they talked about it as the new. They talk about it specifically as the new X series or as the new high-end enthusiast part. I mean, the screenshot here is of a
28 core
with a gamer headset on, right?
That's such a gamer.
He's winning. Look at how much winning he's doing.
Winning.
Yes.
So much winning.
So 28 core processor running at 5 gigahertz all cores. That's an extremely impressive feat. The benchmark results they got was 7,334 on Cinebench R15. That is 2.19x faster than the 18 core Core i9 7980XE that, at stock settings, right? So you had 10 more cores plus much higher clock speeds, getting you more like 2.2x faster, right?
Yeah.
Very impressive. And I think myself and a lot of other people looked at this and went, wow, the next generation of the X series is going to be amazing.
It's going to be kick-ass.
Expensive.
They looked at it and went, that's weird. You don't usually have that sort of jump in performance anymore.
So as it turns out, AMD or Intel was actually able to do this courtesy of a 1 horsepower water chiller using air conditioning refrigerant, dropping the temperature to 4 degrees Celsius in order to run this demo. They were using essentially a server class 2-socket motherboard that had been modified to remove one of the sockets, had additional power phases applied to it.
28 or was 32?
32 of them, which would indicate to
32 power phases.
Yeah.
They consume how much?
Well, 16 of those are sacrificial. They actually died during the presentation.
I think if you count up the two 24-pin headers and all the 8-pin headers on the ASUS board that they were showing in their booth afterwards, you got to like 2,100 watts of available CPU power delivery.
Yeah. Not that they were using that all, but the available. Now, what's interesting about this, so basically the demo is, it's not a product. What I would say is it's not a product demo. It's more of a technology demo. Hey, look how fast we can overclock. This is fine if it's presented as such. It was presented more not as an overclock and more of a, here's what we think the future of multi-core enthusiast platforms look like. And so they've been...
You know what they're kind of basing this off of? It seems like to me.
I mean, I don't know.
The original Pentium 4, what was their high end that Francois worked on, and they were able to, productize in 20 days.
I don't
Extreme
know.
Edition.
Oh,
okay. The Pentium 4 Extreme Edition.
And that was such a good part.
They took a Xeon part based on Pentium 4, and they were able to get it to run on desktop, and they marketed it that way. They had all these logos printed up and productized, and they sold well, and it was a really good success in the face of Athlon 64.
Right.
And it seems like they tried to do that again, and it just didn't go very well.
Yeah. It just, so, like...
Because, 32-phase motherboards are a dime a dozen.
Yeah. Well, the fact that, like, ASUS is showing off this board on the show floor, minus the CPU now, that apparently Intel took them, kind of shows that it's further along in productization. Maybe they had, like, an ROG name attached to the board, and, like, it was a heavily customized server board, but it was heavily customized, and that's not exactly a cheap operation for them to do.
Right.
So it shows...
I mean, you got to do some design, and don't get me wrong, PCB design is far easier than transistor type design. You can spin out different revisions pretty quickly in PCB because it's just CAD. You only have so many layers. You've got so many traces, but that's still a significant thing because you got to retool a line to create a 1 or 2 off server board, and that's not inexpensive.
I'm willing to bet Intel funded part of this. Willing to bet that's probably the case.
So, I mean, like, let's say they weren't using a chiller and it was really high-end water cooling setup. What do you think? What frequency do you think they could have gotten to? 4 gigahertz?
4.3?
That still would have been an impressive demo.
Yeah. I think... Yeah, I don't know what's going through their mind in this way, right? They wanted to show some incredibly high score. They didn't know what AMD was going to do. AMD was going to come out with 32 core. Maybe they were going to overclock it. I don't know. But
I understand the 5 gigahertz number is like a thing and you want to hit it, but like it would have been an impressive demo that they wouldn't have gotten all of this shit for. You still have gotten stuff about it being a completely overkill motherboard and all of that stuff.
Also worth noting, it's a totally different socket. This is not something you'll be able to plug into your current X299 motherboard. It's LGA 3647. It's a Xeon scalable socket. It has different memory channel support as well.
6-channel memory.
Yeah. There's a lot of other stuff. The processor, the closest comparable is a Xeon scalable Platinum 8180, which is a 24-core 28 core part that at its highest clock speeds. It sells for $10,000. That's the retail price on it. Yeah. Now, whether or not Intel sells it to these particular customers at that rate, whatever, that's the list price.
Yeah.
So whatever this is, and whenever it comes out, which they have said it would be out by the end of 2018, it's not going to cost $10,000, but it's also not going to cost $400. So we got to start to set these expectations in an interesting way.
So they said Q4, right?
They said by the end of 2018, which means December 29th.
It would seem very unlikely that this is actually a Xeon Platinum 8180, that it's a Skylake X based part, right? You would think it would have to be the next thing, which we're kind of expecting this year, Cascade Lake.
But there's not a whole lot of difference there.
It's not going to change a whole lot of stuff, but there are a lot of people saying this is literally an 8180 with an unlocked multiplier. It probably isn't quite that simple.
Yeah.
It's probably a next generation part.
Could be. But, that's true. Yeah. It could be. What is that sound I keep hearing?
My computer.
Oh, what's it doing?
and alerting me and stuff.
Also from Intel, they announced an M.2 version of the Optane 905P in a 22.
It's only got one notch, baby.
That's right.
I like one notch M.2 form factor.
It's also quite long. It's the
thank you.
M.2 22110, which is the 110 millimeter long iteration, which not like notebooks don't support this, right?
No, I mean maybe
and some of the motherboards,
some gaming.
Actually, the system that Intel sent us to test Optane caching doesn't support 110 millimeter.
Which, to be fair, is an H series chipset. It's a lower end
non-enthusiast thing. Yeah,
there aren't a whole lot of boards that support 110. It's pretty rare, and you'll only usually have one M.2 slot that supports 110, and the other will go to 80.
The Alan's not here to talk through it, so we'll bring it up more when he decides to show back up. But it's a miniaturization of the same controller used on the desktop card, apparently. And if you look at this picture, like
I'm looking at that picture,
it's edge to edge PCB, baby, on that PCB.
Look at that ball solder.
I asked for some performance specs to see how they compared to the desktop. They didn't really have the information for me yet. It sounds like it's going to be pretty similar. This is a 380 gig capacity drive. Which is, an odd, but at least it's not 100 gig, right? Remember,
448 gig raw.
Yeah, baby.
You like it raw.
18% over provisioning. Not quite as much as the 900p 280, but, you get what you can get. So Alan estimates that it should be in the $450 to $500 price point, which is very high for 380 gig drive, but in line with Optane. I'm very curious to see what the power draw of this new controller is. Yeah, that's something that, depending on
the heatsink.
I mean, probably, and depending on the environment in which you're putting this, a lot of times these guys are putting, motherboard vendors are putting M.2 ports on the back of motherboards, between the motherboard and the back of the case, right?
So let me ask you this real quick.
Oh, you please.
What is the usual draw of an M.2 drive? Is what, half a watt?
No, it's more.
Is it higher than that?
No, I think up to 6 watts.
Well, 7
I can see there
max.
The part would be limited to a 7-watt power envelope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So,
I mean,
I don't think they use that typically.
Seems high, but
okay. How many Dell desktop machines have you ever seen that have had the chipset actually not have a heatsink on it? Way too many.
I don't look at them very often, but yeah, sure.
New generation doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, one thing that I would caution is that storage performance will decrease if that controller overheats. If your chipset overheats, what the hell does a chipset even do anymore? USB, right?
DM4, baby? DMI4, baby?
3. Yeah, but what's connected to the
3.
chipset, right? You've got SATA. Most of these systems you're looking at that don't have
you got some networking
heat sinks on that stuff. Yeah. As opposed to what this drive is trying to do, which is gigabytes per second of throughput, and a lot of I/O internally. So I don't know. Recycling? What? Yep, exactly.
Yet another Optane drive with a weird kind of deal-breaking compromise. It's an M.2 by 4 in a form factor that you can't fit into a lot of devices.
I'm curious. Actually, we should have done more research before this to actually see, take an informal poll of the motherboards we have sitting around us everywhere in every direction.
Do you know what this is called from Intel?
The 905P M.2?
No, it's called winning. Tonight's podcast is Intel is winning in the Charlie Sheen type sense.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, let's talk about another story where they might be winning. They talked at their keynote about... So one of the places Intel's being hit on is on power consumption, battery life of notebooks from Qualcomm, right? And so Intel wanted to show that, hey, yes, whatever might be the case with our chips, but we have an ecosystem, we have an engineering and partnerships and long-term relationships with these guys, and we can do other stuff to move this industry forward. One of them is apparently figuring out some technology that will reduce excuse me, power draw of the display by like half. Jeremy, what are we moving from and to?
Well, I mean, it does depend on what kind of a display you want. And as you guys well know, trying to figure out exactly what panel is in a notebook can be next to impossible.
It's true.
So what they're talking about is cutting the total power draw by 50%, assuming you're running off of Intel graphics.
Right.
The example they gave was deeply confusing to me because they said the Dell XPS with 13 that has a battery life of 20 hours, which sort of confused me.
Well,
it was extended up to 24 hours. So 20% of a base is not bad.
No, it's actually really good.
Because that draw is actually going to stay relatively the same, even if you're idle versus gaming. It shouldn't change hugely.
No, it would change because you're doing, what's the
panel self refresh?
Yeah, panel self refresh.
So I imagine what we're looking at is a combination of how do you actually adjust the technology on the screen itself, the backlight, the pixels, the LED arrays, or whatever it happens to be, with software innovation of panel self refresh, variable refresh, some of these other things that you can do. I believe the example they gave me on my brief was that you can take a 2-watt panel down to a 1-watt panel, right? Okay. And 1 watt doesn't sound like a lot, but again, on laptops where idle power is everything for productivity,
and it's cutting your biggest power draw device in half. Basically,
every device, your phone or your laptop, the screen is almost always your biggest power draw. Now, if you're encoding something on your laptop, then it's going to draw more than your panel. But in all other cases, and I think if you can implement this technology, there's no adverse effect on my,
what on the screen brightness. Yeah. That's the question.
If it flickers at me for 20% battery life, I'm not interested.
I might take it if I could enable that mode.
Only in case of emergency.
Yeah.
But this is a good example of Intel saying, okay, Qualcomm, you might be able to make a more power efficient chip than us because of your background, but you don't have the ability and the weight to go in and like say, hey, Dell, do this. Hey, HP, do this, and force them to do these kind of technological shifts.
And I mean, with this huge draw towards 4K monitors, I doubt a 4K monitor is pulling 2 watts. I would expect it's a wee bit more.
Got it.
Yeah.
So being able to pull that down, some of the higher end machines are now actually not going to be looking at less than 6 hours of battery life, which is a good thing.
No, it'll be 7.5.
Again, as long as it doesn't screw with the brightness of the screen and make it an unpleasant experience to use.
Yeah. And I would also be curious to your original point, Jeremy, depending on your workload, that 20% may vary, right? It may only be 10% or 5% if you're gaming or if you're watching a video, right? Because when you're watching a movie, in theory, the screen is always changing.
Yeah.
Panel self refresh wouldn't really help you there. Panel self refresh is helpful for like right here where I've got this email open and it's literally not changing, but it's consuming the same amount of power each time.
I mean, you kind of take the gaming use case out because it's Intel HD graphics. So,
oh, sure, fine. Burn, baby.
Well, when they use AMD, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Speaking of AMD, let's go through their Computex announcements. There are a lot
before
of
we
them.
go into this.
Oh, yes, please.
Is this an area where I could do a do you know?
You can, sure.
Okay, do you know that tardigrades, when they expel waste, it can be up to 1/3 the size of their body?
Same.
And they feel much better for it.
Ken.
God, I'm so excited that we learned this today.
It's tardigrades are amazing creatures.
Let's learn about AMD's
Nobody else could
announcements at
survive
Computex.
such a passing. Anyway.
Oh, I don't know about that, Josh.
There's some people who are full of a lot of waste.
All right. Anyway, AMD Computex.
They had a pretty good
showing. That out of my system, if you will.
Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Sorry.
No, you're not. So AMD had a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's first mention EPYC. Tim posted this up. They talked through a few days ago, they announced a partnership with Cisco. Cisco is a rising player in the enterprise space. They're small, but
rising.
Small,
influential.
Yeah. They're small but growing, right? They've done a lot of push into getting into this market. They're now using EPYC single socket platforms for this. They talk about 10% more or 20% more storage per rack, 50% more servers, improvement in per VM costs. Same thing with HP. They announced the DL325 Gen 10. It's their first 1P ProLiant server, 25% lower cost per VM. These are all important claims. Then they had Tencent, was the giant Chinese cloud company, kind of comparable to Google, I guess, in a lot of ways.
They own everything.
But they have now deployed EPYC-based servers in their cloud service. Again, their claims are 30% lower cost per VM, as well for 3D rendering, genetic modeling, e-commerce, a lot of stuff that obviously people use VMs and cloud-based servers for. So impressive stuff for them there. And really their EPYC story is all about momentum. It's, they're not refreshing it like they are with the Ryzen and Threadripper. They're not going Zen Plus. They're not adding that into it. But they do want to show people that, we know that getting back in the server space takes a lot more work, takes a lot more time. It's more relationships. It's not, they're trying to sell 10,000 parts instead of to 10,000 to one person each, right, on Newegg or whatever. So it is a much tougher deal. There's the big news, right? Hot on the heels of the 28 core Intel demo, AMD came up on stage the next day, or on my time schedule later that night, because of time zones, that they went up and showed their 32 core Threadripper CPU coming out in Q3.
And you know what the best part about this?
I can't wait. Can't wait.
They used a 2 horsepower motor to get here.
Fake news.
Okay, that's a lie. Sorry. They used air cooling.
You got anything else?
It was a really big air cooling, but
yeah, it's a fair-sized air cooler, but
Maury would be proud.
This is the Threadripper 2000 series. It'll be Zen Plus architecture, up to 32 core, 64 threads. They did mention the 24 core version as well. So expect there to be a 32, a 24, 16, a couple different speed grades in between there. They didn't go into any more detail about clock speeds. They didn't talk about the memory system, which is going to be interesting because an EPYC with 32 cores supports 8 channels of memory.
Yeah.
In theory.
No, it does.
Well,
does,
yes, it does in EPYC, sure. Yeah.
Threadripper
but
will have all of those same memory controllers because they're going to have 4 fully populated, Zeppelin die on there. But all the motherboards that are out there that that these are socket compatible with have 4 channels of routed memory.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit curious how they're gonna balance that, or if there's something they can do magically where now maybe instead of 2 DIMMs per channel, you can get 1 DIMM per channel, and you can actually take advantage of that. I do not believe that will be the case.
The routing does not sound like it would work that way.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think that you're stuck with 4 channel, which is a bad thing to say because being stuck with 4 channel memory does not suck.
Right? No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
You were right, Josh. They didn't. They didn't talk about clock speeds. They didn't do performance numbers. They did a side-by-side comparison of an Intel 18 core and the AMD 24 core, and showing how much faster it was rendering in Cinema 4D. I think. Yeah. But they didn't show any benchmark numbers, and I'm actually really curious personally if they had intended to show performance numbers of their 32 core part. But once Intel not only showed a 28 core, but a 28 core with this massive overclock, courtesy of its thermal system, that they're like, now if we release a number that's lower, even though it's way higher than the 18 core Intel or the 16 core AMD, it's still going to be looked at in a negative light for any media or readers, viewers that aren't analyzing the background of the cooling situation. I think
originally, can I intercede here?
Yeah.
Threadripper has done really well for AMD. It has given them kind of a halo effect. It's been a solid part. I know I built one for the group that I'm with, the company that I work for, and it has been an outstanding product in terms of price, performance, and the amount of threads that you get. We're doing heavy-duty statistical analysis where they start running a process on Monday, and it might finish up on Friday. And when you consider you've got 32 threads, and they're eaten 100% cycles on there. I mean, it's a lot of work, and it has saved us a lot of money and a lot of time and stuff. And so this has been, I mean, for $1,000 to get the top of the line Threadripper, I mean, there is a market for it. Yep. I mean, and even enthusiasts, because you can clock that up to 4 gigahertz and you can overclock it a little bit. Yeah. But, you know, single thread performance is still fantastic. Gaming is going to be pretty good. I mean, you got to adjust the BIOS settings. And so Threadripper has put a nice, you know, it's dug out a nice little niche for AMD. And improving upon this with 24, 32 threads with Zen second generation is really a no-brainer. I'm very curious if they would ever release the numbers of how many products they've sold.
No, they won't. Although they did mention apparently the thing that they had sold 5 million Ryzen parts or something like that. I didn't hear it. I just saw Twitter chatter about it, so I'm going to get into that more later. But it's curious, or it's not curious. It's really interesting to think back. If you look at, I don't know, let's say February 2017, the top core count processor in the mainstream platform was a quad core, you know, 6700K or 7700K, whatever it was, right? And the top HEDT, the Intel X99, went up to 10 at that point, right?
5960X.
So it's now a year and 4 months later, and we have gone to 8 core with Ryzen, to 16 core with Threadripper, now to 32 core with Threadripper. So literally in the span of 16 months, because of the pressure, because of the competition that AMD created, they have been able to accelerate like core adoption. And as a result, Intel has had to react. You've got 6-core Coffee Lake. You've got 18-core X series. Do they show it a 28-core something, right? Now, there is a legitimate debate about, is this useful, right? Like, who can use 32 cores and 64 threads in a single socket? I tend to be in the side of like, well, not a whole lot today. However, you want to enable people to start thinking that way. So, you know, 8 cores in parts that are what, $299, $279 from AMD. Yeah. Like that's how you start to get that rolling on, right? And don't get me wrong, for a little while, both AMD and Intel will have to talk about what are the use cases for platforms like this, right? And that's a difficult decision to have. Yeah, megatasking. And how about you want to stream and play games? That was last year. Now you've got to set it up into 2 VMs and you're going to stream twice and play twice, right? Like those type of stuff. I don't know. Maybe they do that. But what's interesting,
and maybe the use case that we're looking at is more in terms of me. I mean, I'm a small company sysadmin outside of here.
Yeah,
and you know, we've got 300, 400 users, and instead of buying some high-end $10,000 machine from Dell, I do a $2,000 Threadripper that does it 95% of the performance of this $10,000 machine. And not everybody's going to be able to do this, but the amount of people who are doing higher quality video editing as a hobby, or doing 3D effects as just, I mean, how many little things on YouTube have you seen that somebody rendered something really kind of cool, that they have an idea and they get 3ds Max and then they learn how to do it. And I mean, for the amount of money that they're offering cores and threads, it's kind of obscene in a really lovely way.
And I'm more excited about this than most of the stuff we talk about today, because it has a pretty firm release date of Q3, probably looking at July, August time frame.
And you don't need a 1 horsepower cooler.
Well, what if you had?
You might want one. Yeah, exactly.
You might want one.
Well, you don't have to. Yeah, right. So they showed the air cooler, or they said it was air cooler, and apparently they showed something called the Threadripper, right? Which is of course, RGB enabled air cooler that I thought maybe I'd heard was going to ship with it, but now maybe it's just going to...
I've seen it both ways.
Okay,
it looks like not.
Cooler Master's making it, I think. Is that right? So either way, I think that's
comes on a separate pallet.
There were issues with Threadripper coolers and TR4 sockets and getting all that worked out. So I think what AMD did with Ryzen 2000 series and packing a cooler in the box with everything, and then maybe doing that with Threadripper 2000 series is a good deal too. Let's get to the other stuff they had here. They Lisa held up Zen 2 Rome EPYC CPU, which is their 7 nanometer version. This is not Zen Plus. This is actually Zen 2.
Yeah.
This is the new micro architecture, the new design, the second iteration of Zen. And no details on perf or anything like that, but they have silicon up in labs now. It's sampling in the second half of this year to partners, and it will be shipping in 2019. And obviously 2019 is a 12-month period, so it's not a very detailed window, but it's there. And I think
that's epic. So that means, they're getting, of course, EPYC is made of dies from Zen, which goes across their entire.
But what's interesting is we don't know
product.
What the configuration is going to be this time.
So we have no information on what the core count is, or none of that.
It could be. It's not going to be one monolithic die. They're not going to go that way. But maybe they're 16 core dies now instead of 8.
Yeah, and not only that, but they are out TikToking Intel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an accident that they're talking about this. Oh, sorry, that's me. That's my fault. They mentioned 7 nanometer on the GPU, and they're hammering down where they can because they know that the pressure on Intel for being behind on 10 nanometer is significant. So they're going to take advantage of that as much as they possibly can, which obviously leads into the GPU side where they showed off a working Vega 7 nanometer graphics card. It was running a Cinema 4D ray tracing demo. No performance metrics again on this. Very early. And 32,
what's cool about
32
this,
gigs
though,
of HBM2 memory. What's that?
Is that the die size goes from about 550 millimeter square to about sub 400, so thinking around 300 millimeter square.
Yeah, I saw some analysis.
They've got 4 HBM channels rather than 2 in Vega.
Yep.
So you can get more stack, 32 gigs.
Yep.
But in theory, get double the bandwidth.
Yeah, I think it'll be impressive. They talked a little bit about new deep learning operations, probably something similar to the tensor cores. Hardware virtualization improvements, a high-speed interconnect, basically something to rival NVLink for data center work. They didn't mention anything about gaming in relation to this. I saw some stories talking about this GPU is going to come to gaming later in 2018 or something like that. That's wrong. All Lisa said was that 7 nanometer technology will be coming to gamers eventually. Right, and so stay tuned there, and that could just be Navi, right? I don't believe there's any plans for an updated Vega 7 nanometer to come out to gamers.
But they did.
I don't think so either. I think their first 7 nanometer products are going to be aimed directly at data center and AI and machine learning.
Trying to get in on that cash cow.
But I'm kind of curious. I mean, this is a segue, but do you think that the next GPU architecture is going to skip 12 and 10 nanometer and go straight to 7, or do you think that we're going to get enthusiast stuffs sooner in 12 nanometer?
Well, the roadmap we're showing right now says 7 nanometer for Navi.
Well, I'm talking about overall. I mean, not just.
So are we
AMD,
talking about NVIDIA? Because that's the only other option.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. If you're asking me what Turing's going to be, it's not going to be 7 nanometer. So
there you have it.
Yeah. It's just timing wise, it can't be. So there's that. That's the GPU. Is that all the AMD stuff? That's enough AMD stuff. Let's move on. NVIDIA didn't do a whole lot at Computex. They announced
disappointed everyone.
Isaac. Yeah, I know. Oh, they're going to release the 1180. Everybody. No, still not. And in fact, quite the opposite. Jensen was quoted as saying it's going to be a very long time before new GeForce GPUs are released.
Let's see what very long time means to Jensen.
It might be 30 days. It might be 180 days. I honestly have no idea. But it was definitely kind of a buzzkill for people that were like, "Ooh, man, June, July, it's really hitting us."
We can't talk about that. It was, nope, not soon.
I'm sure his PR people would have rather he not said that exact wording, but Then, last week they had their Taiwan-based GTC event last week. They announced HGX2, which is basically a server infrastructure that other partners can build machine learning and deep learning systems on. They also announced Isaac, which is their development platform for robotics. It's using the new Jetson Xavier board, which is the Xavier SoC, which is that chip they keep talking about, the largest chip development project they've ever done. I forget what it is. It's like
it's 8 ARM cores
and 512
volta cores and tensor
cores as well. I don't know what the configuration is of that. Supports NVDLA. This is, and then they also announced like the robotics simulator training system.
So they talked about it at the GTC US this year.
Agreed.
As well.
Yeah, it wasn't a whole lot of. I think the platform is new, and kind of the $1,200 dev kit that you can get is new, but the other stuff is kind of what we.
They said early August for shipping of the dev kit.
Okay,
honestly, $1,300, it's like a steal for this board. Like how much I/O you get, it's insane for someone doing like a autonomous robotics sort of.
Yeah, interesting. All right, we got a lot of stuff to get through here. We have this section in the show notes called ASUS, and they apparently releasing everything.
Yeah.
Jeremy, why don't you go through the first couple? Give me like 2 sentences max on each, and rapid fire this ish.
All right. Well, you got the Ryujin and Raiwo coolers, and well, frankly, they're just 240 millimeter and 360 millimeter water coolers.
They got RGBs on them.
Of all the RGBs everywhere.
Do we know who's making them?
That one had I'm sorry. The one we're showing right now, the bottom one, had an ASUS logo on it at the show. So
okay.
Gee, I wonder.
There's also something special besides RGB. They both have OLED displays in them that are programmable.
Are you kidding?
Like that ROG logo is a like 1.75 inch OLED display they can put any graphic on. And then if you scroll up, that one has one too.
All right, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
How much does that cost?
They haven't said.
More than the other ones.
All right, second half of the year.
Those displays are pretty commodity at this point.
Pricing not yet available.
Yeah.
All right. What's next?
1,200 watt power supply. Anyone want the ROG Thor?
Has it got RGBs in it?
Of course it does.
All right.
And a 10-year warranty.
Whoa! And apparently an OLED panel that states the current power draw. I guess that's where that 1,200 watts is. That's awesome. Who needs a kilowatt? Just going to use these from
literally
now on.
anything we're talking about will have Aura Sync in it.
Yeah.
I take it all back.
Sync.
I was going to make fun of ASUS this entire segment, and I take it all back.
Hopefully your case doesn't have a power supply shroud.
This is fantastic. Up next, Jeremy, what is this one?
Well, that's what those things we just talked about go into.
Oh, okay.
This is the ROG Strix gaming chassis.
Does it have an OLED screen on it?
I am looking, and I don't actually see one.
That would just be obscene.
That's just crazy. Nobody would ever do that.
I'm kind of sad.
So this is made by partnership with InWin. The internal of the chassis is an InWin 915, I believe.
Okay.
So
looks like it.
Not necessarily new internals, but they're kind of redesigning the externals. And this is still a concept, I think. They're like not a final design.
I kind of hate the random words in the front. I mean, it's not random, but
you
it's
want
just
word clouds on your case?
Yeah.
No. The actual design is kind of cool because it's laser cut in there, so like it looks cool. But game
so it doesn't buff out
cases.
Dang it.
Yeah.
And as with most other things, it will have a vertical GPU mounting bracket so that you can show off your GPU and how hot it is.
Perfect. And we got another ASUS. Oh yeah, of course you do.
No, they just keep a coming.
ASUS ROG Gaming, the Gladius 2 wireless mouse, the Baltius Qi pad, and the Delta headset. Looks a lot like my good friend the IntelliMouse there. I'm a fan of that design. Wireless charging, of course. Is this a full field charger, or is it like in a single location charger? Let's see.
I don't think they actually said the mouse could be wireless charged. They announced a wireless charging mouse pad with Qi in it to charge things like your phone.
Place their phone or on their mouse pad when they go to bed.
But I don't think they confirmed.
If I got a metal pan, could I cook some ramen on that? I mean, it is induction.
Considering it's 5 watts, probably not.
Probably not enough to heat up the pan any reputable amount, but okay.
But maybe.
And then you got the headset as well.
which is Type C.
Oh, really?
Just because. Yeah.
Huh. Okay. All right. I'm down with that. It's more Type C accessories. Also works with Android devices.
Android devices, huh? Is that the next story?
No, more
No.
ASUS.
Wait. The monitors?
That's good.
Yep.
That's a good
That was going to be a
transition.
good transition. We just didn't
It
look at the show
was,
notes well.
but sorry. They've still got more stuff to show.
What are the monitors?
You could be
Jeremy?
the queen of my double wide monitor.
Well,
yeah?
you might
okay, have
be
you
able
not
to
ever
get
heard that country song?
Yeah.
You could be the queen of my double wide
my
trailer.
double wide.
Ah, God.
Okay.
All heathens. Everybody heathens.
Okay, we were in a flow, Josh. We were in a
Fine.
flow, Josh.
I'm destroying the flow. I'm like a dam.
Yes,
Damn you.
like a damn
Made
Josh.
empty somehow through.
Jeremy, tell me
hydroelectric.
about these 3 monitors.
Well, first one is specifically designed for consoles, as you can kind of tell by the picture there. Now, it doesn't have wireless charging, but it does have dedicated USB
Wow.
charging slots in the bottom so that you can essentially just plug your console controllers in there
Okay.
and leave her to go. Other than that, it's 1080p because, well,
No, wait.
wait, this one's the 4K. I take that
Yeah.
back. It's 31.5-inch 4K. With HDR10 support and HDR 600 compliance and 10-bit color. So, if you've got a console that can provide that, this
Xbox
actually
One
might be more
X.
fun than
Yeah.
a TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also worth mentioning, all of these are FreeSync displays. This particular one's 40 to 60 hertz.
Yep.
Again, pretty much in line with what you'd want from a console.
Pretty cool.
Next up is the one for the working people, the ProArt PA34V. It's an IPS 21 by 9, so not quite as wide as some people might like them, but 3440 by 1440 with a 1900R curvature. And because it's a little bit under 4K, the adaptive sync goes from 40 to 100 hertz. It does
That should
over
do
100%
LFC then
of
too. Sorry.
does 100% of Adobe and over 100% of sRGB. And it comes with built-in memory so that when you're doing your color profiles on the monitor, it's saved on the monitor itself as opposed to your PC. So you can just pop around, grab a different laptop, plug her in, and start working again without having to play with things.
Interesting.
Nice.
All right.
You can also
Jeremy,
string a bunch
why
of
is
stuff
it
together
when-
because it's
when-
got Thunderbolt 3. Pair of them. Next up is
Jeremy,
the one that Josh
when
is
you
gonna marry.
talk, it sounds like someone's playing drums in the background. Are you drumming in the background?
I don't hear that.
I'm really excited.
What is your cat doing?
I don't think any of us hear that.
He's sleeping after knocking a bottle of beer over earlier just before the podcast. That was really fun to clean up.
So strange.
When he knocked over the bottle, did he watch you clean it up?
Yes.
Like, was
And
he
attempted to step on broken glass as
He's a
best he
cat.
could.
was
So,
was
yeah.
he like happy that he had caused you inconvenience?
And was trying to make it worse by trying to play with the broken glass.
Oh, it'd be a shame if you had to clean up bloody paw prints, wouldn't it?
He said a cat. That's what they do.
All right, what's the third monitor?
Okay, now this is the one that sort of matches the one, the Samsung that Ken loved so much. So 49-inch, 32 by 9, 3840 by 1080 VA panel that has a proper 1800R curvature on it. No funny arse ends on it.
You know, Samsung advertised that other monitor as an 1800R.
See, now that was the next thing is that they mentioned it in the PR.
Yeah.
They didn't specifically say not like the Samsung, but
Yeah.
we
That'd be
could
pretty good.
hope. And it goes up to 144 hertz adaptive sync with a couple of fancy new things like the extreme low motion blur, if you can lock yourself at 85, 100, or 120 hertz, and game fast technology, which, well, in ASUS's internal testing showed 11.9 milliseconds input lag.
So
We'll see what happens when someone gets their hands on it.
So do we think that extreme low motion blur is like a ULMB
I
type
think it has to be.
implementation?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think we've ever seen that on a FreeSync display.
I don't think we have either.
Well, and I have a feeling because you have to be at those specific specific rates that it can't just be bouncing around.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like a FreeSync.
But that was a NVIDIA advantage for
Yeah,
a long time
on G-Sync
on the monitor
monitors,
side.
it's always been you have to pick one or the other on those panels. Yeah, ASUS Extreme LMB, so it's ELMB, not ULMB.
That NVIDIA's
So, you
real
know.
happy about that one.
You know. Very cool.
And last but not least,
Here's
do you
the
like having
transition
heat
to
pipes
Android.
next to your head?
Vapor chamber, bro.
Yes. How about an ROG phone? It's an Android
Not made by
phone.
Nokia.
It is a 6.25 inch long display phone, a 6-inch AMOLED essentially. This does he say the resolution here? 2160 by 1080, 108% of the DCI P3 color
It's
space.
not a thing you can claim.
It's not.
You can't claim over 100% of a color space.
People do it all the time.
Sure.
They do it constantly.
It doesn't mean it's the right 8.6%. Like it might totally skew it red, but
There is
you
no
know.
right 8.6% because it's beyond the spec.
Well, if it were like
Well, what it does is
Even.
it sunburns your iris, not irises, but your retinas, and so they give it that 8.6%.
Nice.
so it's an Android smartphone powered by Snapdragon 845 that's targeting gamers and
A Snapdragon 845 clocked at 2.96 gigahertz.
oh really?
Yeah.
You know, if only they could do
Fantastic.
another
I didn't know that's what
40
we were talking
megahertz.
That's actually faster than the 850 by 10 megahertz.
Now, I think it might
Son
only
of a
clock up to that
biscuit.
when you add the active cooling fan that you can strap onto the back.
Yeah, so this is the only phone. This is the first phone I've seen with like mesh air outlets on the back.
Did you
So that's going to
seriously
do
say
good
you
for
can-
waterproofing, right?
Yeah, there's a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. Yes, you can absolutely. We don't have a picture of it here. Let me see if the ASUS page has it. Yep, there
This
it is.
is like super duper Anantech type stuff.
It comes with that accessory.
It comes with this accessory that applies, basically blows a fan on the back of the device.
And you know what it sounds like? It sounds like wing.
Just what I want to have
We
right
got
next
a
to my head.
10 millimeter fan on the back of our device.
I mean, the
It's
idea
not
is you
next
only
to
put it
your
on while you're
head.
gaming.
It's when you,
Except, of course, when you're talking on the phone.
What does it,
It
say?
comes on
Triggered
and
by
off.
awkward landscape limitations? What the hell?
I, too, am triggered by
See,
awkward
okay,
landscape.
and that also has your
Kickstand.
ports on it as well. See, it's got, it's hard to see. There it is.
well, it's got like a pass-through
It's got like
USB-C.
the USB and
and
a
a
headphones
headphone.
port
Well,
on the
I
bottom
think
of
the
that part
phone
as well.
has a headphone jack as well. I think that's just kind of passing through. It has multiple USB-C ports, so you can have this device plugged in and still
It's
use
got a
USB-C,
dock. You can dock it.
like a Nintendo
can't-
DS.
Yeah, here we go. Hard to see it.
Oh wait, no, the desktop dock, and then
Desktop
there's the
dock,
dual
and then
screen
you've
dock.
got like a Nintendo DS where it's got, you're docking it into a dual screen device.
It's got a 90 hertz
It's got a
AMOLED
Switch
display.
accessory.
Look how much fun you will have in your life
Oh,
if you
God, yeah.
only bought this product.
How many people believe this will ship?
Not here.
Hey, if the N gauge shipped, this will.
Taco Talk.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about this.
I don't think it'll ship here necessarily.
I think it's
it'll
incredibly
ship.
interesting, but it's going to be expensive as hell. I don't know.
Yeah.
$1,000? I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that our
at
last
least.
ASUS item?
I think so.
Let's find out. Nope, it's not. ZenBooks. Just kidding.
Oh.
How about some laptops? The new ZenBook Pro 15 UX 580. Jeremy, what's the standout feature on this one?
Well, if you scroll down a little bit, you can see it a bit better.
What
is not a touchpad.
It's a screen pad.
It's a full HD IPS display. So not only can you use it as a touchpad, you can have fancy little menus appear on it.
A good thing it's not a TN panel. The viewing angles would be awful.
I know, way. But and in a way, it does actually make sense. They're essentially saying, so if you're using a Microsoft Office product, your ribbons can appear on that if you so desire. If you're, say, running HexChat, you could drag it down because it shows up as just another additional display in Windows Display Manager.
Interesting.
And so you could actually have your text scrolling down there.
As long as I have another mouse and I'm not just thumbing over the this text screen.
We need more widgets.
Oh, yeah, it's going to come with widgets.
As someone firmly in the camp of don't touch my screens, this confuses
Well, this one
me.
you're going to fondle.
You don't like any touchscreens at all?
No, I don't like
Well,
people-
that's the future of everything, so you're going to lose. I hate to break it to you.
fingerprints everywhere.
Yeah. Nah,
It'll even run
they'll fix
calculator,
that.
though, Alex.
That might make it worth it.
Wait, you
Yeah,
could put
totally,
a
right?
terminal session down there.
No.
But apart from that, internally, you're looking at your 8th gen Intel Mobile. up to a GTX 1050 Ti, which is not too bad.
This also has the Core i9 8950HK 6-core part. Yeah.
Calibrated screen. 100% Adobe
100%
RGB.
Adobe RGB is good. 132% sRGB, Ken.
And nano edge bezels, which, sound great until you look at them and realize that,
They're bezels.
Yeah.
But it does have the camera at the top.
Oh, and I also should mention that it's the first one that they've done, which is Pantone validated.
Yeah, that's
their first laptop. So it's sort of a hybrid gaming and productivity computer.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. Okay. Okay, now we're past the ASUS stuff.
Yay!
We're in the home stretch. Actually, we're not. Damn it.
That's all I have to go.
Corsair introduces Crystal Series 280X RGB Micro-ATX. Ken, you're actually kind of excited about this case, correct?
Yeah, so at home I use the original Corsair Carbide Air 240, which essentially looks like this case without the tempered glass. But it had a few sort of fatal flaws. I know Sebastian has one of these in for review that he's taking a look at, and I asked him a couple of questions. One of the fatal flaws of the 240 was you could fit full-length GPUs in there, like a standard GPU. Like you could fit a very long GPU in there, but if the PCIe power connectors came out on the window side, because it had an acrylic side panel instead of tempered glass.
As most do.
Yeah, as most do these days. The leads would stick out too far and you couldn't really put the side panel on. So now it looks like they have an additional gap between the window and the PCIe brackets.
Yeah.
Which will help a lot. Essentially, I could only use a Founders Edition GPU because those are nice and sort of thin as opposed to third-party cards.
Yeah.
I could only ever fit a Founders Edition GPU, having tried a couple of other options. So that's kind of the biggest thing I'm looking for. Tempered glass is interesting. They have RGB and non-RGB options. The non-RGB option that doesn't come with RGB fans saves you $50.
$159 down to $109.
Yeah, so
that's a significant difference.
Probably just do that one. Kind of disappointed that there's no non-tempered glass option, but
yeah.
And all that space and no optical drive.
Need optical drives.
Nobody needs optical drives. Not even Josh. He just needs to get over it.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Oh, God. I'm very serious.
Triggered.
Get your Starbucks coffee and your knit hat, and we'll meet you after the podcast to talk about it. Okay.
Sure.
At least we've got somewhere to put our coffee.
This is an interesting story. How about this? Gigabyte makes memory. Gigabyte makes RGB memory that comes with 2 good DIMMs and 2 dummy DIMMs.
Yep.
So basically, you want 16 gigs of memory. You want DDR4, 3200 megahertz, 2 8 gig DIMMs, but you want to populate all those slots so that it looks cool. And
believe you me, I want to populate all.
Josh loves populating slots.
All slots filled.
Yeah. So this actually, like, at first I saw this, I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Then I was like, you know what? Okay. Nobody's ever done this before, but you want as much light in your case as you can get. Fine, do it. Right. Here's how you're going to do it. Right. And I don't know what the premium is for that.
Yeah. How cheaply you can make fake DIMMs.
Right. With just
RGBs.
the LEDs and the controls. Right. What happens if you take away the PCB and the IC and try to sell it that way? But it's an interesting idea. It's not for me personally. But if you are an RGB fanatic.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, if you're going for like an aesthetic with your case and you have a proper dual channel RAM configuration, you're going to have that hole in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks kind of funky if you don't know what's going on.
Sure.
And you're trying to do like these cool RGB animations, all the software can do now and stuff. It's going to look a bit weird, but
yeah. I'll tell you what, I got some old RAM bus terminators that I could strap some RGBs onto.
There you
and
go.
You can buy them.
Josh, go ahead.
The best is when eBay gets a lot of complaints about, well, I bought these 2 and 4 DIMM kits and my computer won't even post, but they sure look pretty with the lights on.
Yeah. Yeah. Tough luck for them.
Yeah.
All right. Next. This is kind of cool. CaseKing and DeBauer debut a phase shift cooler, a all-in-one prototype. Please, somebody explain to me what this is. Ken, did you read it?
I watched a video from Gamers Nexus about this.
Okay.
So essentially, this is aiming to be, by the end of the year, a turnkey phase change all-in-one cooler that you can install. This is
it looks easy to install.
Well, this is a development unit. It's got some stuff like
Do you need a 3D printer to actually create the legs that you want to use?
Well, it would be very difficult to print acrylic sheets on a 3D printer, but
Does it come with adapters so I can hook it into my refrigerator?
Please let Ken talk through this.
All right.
No.
it's got some extra stuff like that port on the side that they can use to pressurize it for demo. And the tubing is supposed to go down to like 10 or 12 millimeters. So like normal sort of hydraulic line like you'd use for something like brakes in a car. And it's supposed to be a 240 millimeter turnkey phase shift cooling unit. They aren't really talking pricing or anything yet, but I mean, this is the first time we've seen anything like that. The phase change stuff has been super massive, difficult to sort of implement.
Yeah.
You've had
you know what the best part about that is?
What?
How that piece cuts off half your memory DIMMs.
Again, that piece won't be there. That was a testing
Whatever.
piece so they can pressurize the unit.
Oh, I thought you were talking about above,
No.
because there's a very similar unit at the top.
The one on the top is a pressure relief.
But they won't say what fluid it's using. It's not using 3M Novik because that has PFCs in it. You can't ship that, Clean Air Act and such. You can't distribute that. So they're using some new fluid that they're not talking about, but enables them to do this and ship it across the world. So
Movec.
And you said it's not Flurner, right?
no,
I think that one has the coolest name, though.
it does.
That would raise the price a bit.
Yeah.
Can I breathe it underwater?
Did they say anything about what's the temperature that this basically would get us down to? Like, obviously, it has to be significantly better than what you get with everything else. Otherwise, why would I pay $9,000 for it? The inevitable cost that will be charged.
And not really any information on performance or anything like that, but it'd be super interesting if we see a kit like this ship by the end of the year, because like nobody's been close to commercializing this.
No, in
a large scale.
Not anything like this.
And what's interesting about this is it's fully passive. You know, if you're talking phase chain, it's typically an active loop. You have a compressor and expansion chambers. There's no pumps. There's no. It looks like there's a central line and an external line, and it goes up, condenses, and then flows back. I mean, it's not like an active phase chain. Like it's a Peltier, we're actually pulling heat out.
Yeah,
it's all passive. So
are you saying that this is passive aggressive?
It
Very
looks pretty
much so.
aggressive while being passive.
I really want to cool your CPU, but it's just
I think
so
you're
hard.
using it a bit too much.
All right, we're moving on now. Sebastian wrote up a story about Rivet Networks introducing killer wireless xTend technology. This is kind of an interesting solution, which basically lets you turn your notebook, or I'm sorry, your PC that has killer networking on it, hardwired killer networking, and killer wireless. You can turn it into like a mesh access point. Right. So you can clone your home network credentials, seamlessly extend your network for better Wi-Fi experience by using those two technologies. So if you hardwire your PC, you can integrate. You're not wasting the wireless on that part of it, right? So it seems like a pretty good idea. And then you get to take advantage. All those devices attached to that wireless network take advantage of the prioritization technology that Killer Networking has been building in for, prioritizing your gaming, your streaming, your downloads, or what have you.
And your banking.
And your banking. Yeah, it optimizes all of your banking. Clearly.
So that the guy who connected to it can get at it.
We're going to get a demo of this relatively soon.
It's interesting use because you buy some of these high-end motherboards that have Wi-Fi cards installed, and you hardwire your PC and you never think about using it. This is something you could do with it, at least. That might help in your given situation.
It keeps you from spending, $150, $200 on a mesh networking system or an extension, router extension AP that you don't need.
I'd be curious how well the handoff works.
It's all, I agree.
That's always tricky.
I don't know. I mean, if it's if it automatically clones your home network credentials.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
That stuff is kind of shady, and it's just now getting there with like the mesh protocols, which I don't know.
And having all the same SID for everything is just going to be weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd work, but maybe.
Yeah. Like I said, we'll check that out soon. This is another thing that was surprisingly cool that we saw.
It's pretty neat, isn't it?
System cable management device from Seasonic. What is this supposed to be, Jeremy?
Well, so you look at that PSU and you realize, oh, that's crap. It's not modular. Until you wait a second, it's just one cord coming out, and it's plugging into this funny little doohickey, which you can mount behind your motherboard, and then distribute the power from it.
I think this is awesome.
It's a PDU.
So it's a ridiculously easy cable management system.
It's cable management. It will prevent me from having that awful headache every time you build a system where you can't get the 8-pin power connector from the power supply to the top left corner of the motherboard, all that kind of crap. It makes things neat and clean, even cleaner than before. You'd only have one cable coming out of your power supply to behind the motherboard tray.
I'd be curious about how thick that is and if it can fit in behind the motherboard tray of most chassis. That seems like
it looks
that could
like
be,
here, unless I'm missing something, this is a cutout, right? Like this portion right here.
Yeah.
Like you can see through it. So I'm even curious, like how much cabling there is even in this device.
Well, if you scroll up, well, I think it's all just hardwired, but you scroll up a little bit and you can see the thickness of it compared to the thickness of the ports, right?
Yeah, no, if you could route cables back there, you should.
Do they mention anything about how you mount this to the case? I mean, there's got to be so many different types of cases, and
well, they're also talking about making
Geiger
3
would be
models.
proud, so proud.
Looks like there's
So many tentacles coming off of it in odd angles.
Jeremy, what were you gonna say?
They're, if they do release it, because right now it is a prototype and they're talking about it, and I really hope that they do, there'll be 3 different models, so it should fit in just about any case. Because your EATX is going to be, uncomfortable if you've got an MATX size.
Yes, true. But I think you just break it in half and it's fine.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Just put pass-through wires through.
Yeah.
The logo is, of course, RGB. Have to mention that.
Oh,
otherwise it wouldn't be a Computex product.
Yeah, you're right.
And they also are claiming that the drop-in of efficiency should be about 1%, so pretty on the level with what we see on the modulars.
Got it.
And honestly, I just like this better than a modular PSU. It just makes more sense.
Yeah, I'm fine with that assertion. Yeah. I just think it makes everything easier. And in theory, well, I guess it's just going to come with you don't have to use a Seasonic power supply for that.
Yeah, you do.
Well,
you do?
Yeah, because look at the way
it's
it plugs
hardwired
in.
into the power supply.
Oh, I thought this was. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a single.
Right, look at the power,
cables.
the PSU at the top again.
Okay.
Like, I think you've got to get a specific type that's going to be compatible with it.
All right. Well,
Or an adapter.
yeah.
So you
Got
have
it.
this picture up. Why is the second SSD not plugged in?
Power's
Why are
optional.
They just don't like that one.
Data by osmosis.
Ah, okay.
Yes, clearly.
It's the hot spare. Oh, cold spare.
Cold spare.
All right. Next up, InWin has a case. We'll call it the Z
It's
Tower.
really affordable too.
It is stare in amazement, Jeremy writes, at 8 giant pieces of cast aluminum that it is made from.
Oh, jeez.
That's its kind of rendering. This is kind of a black version that we saw a picture
Shiny.
of. So this is just like case as art, essentially, right?
Yeah.
And Ken, you were telling me earlier, this is something InWin has done a few times.
Yeah, sort
in
of
the
every
past.
trade show, every like CES and Computex, they do these kind of crazy, mostly one-off, like show pieces of what kind of like concept cars, essentially.
Look at how thick that metal is. How much do you think that thing weighs? Even with aluminum.
It's a lot, and I don't think you can pick it up without like cutting yourself with all the sharp angles.
That's part of its aesthetic.
Right. Yeah, that's how you prevent theft.
Yes.
Just embed some blood
And hey,
into it.
think about the airflow.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any problems with that. I
Where
think
do you mount fans?
my problem with this is like you just put a motherboard in it.
How do you get the motherboard in with the heat sink?
I don't even know, but like you just do it, right? And it's circular inside. Because I think InWin also makes a case that's like inside of a clear sphere.
Yeah.
and it's just a motherboard and stuff mounted inside of Sphere. It looks neater, but they didn't fundamentally change anything I'm looking at, right? Like if they made it so like the motherboard was maybe mounted at this kind of 45-degree angle or something through that, and it
you just have to bend it a bit.
Okay, heat it up and bend it.
Yeah,
fair enough. All right, that's a Z Tower. That's our gig. That's Computex is over. Yay!
Oh, God.
It's not quite over yet.
We got 2 more things. Microsoft bought GitHub. Scott's not on here to talk about the importance of that, but Jeremy, you wrote this news up. It only was $7.5 billion, so it's probably not that big a deal.
$7 billion in PayPal and half on right in the what cost of doing the business. To put it quickly, Microsoft bought GitHub. The internet has feelings. They've been hurt.
I hear that happens a lot, actually.
Yes.
So as an aside, GitLab has reported they're having scaling troubles onboarding all the customers.
You know where GitLab's hosted?
No.
Azure.
Are you kidding me?
No.
No.
And GitHub was hosted by Amazon AWS.
That'll be the first thing they change.
Yep.
That'll be a gradual
we sort of
change,
saw
I
this
guess.
coming because Microsoft's been playing with the Git virtual file system for quite a while now with Azure, and they like buying things and then running them beautifully, and we hear from them constantly about new products.
Yeah. Microsoft is a hell of a lot more developer-friendly, developer-focused company than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah, and
people asked for Microsoft to be more friendly to open source and be more friendly to developers. They put Linux kernel in Windows 10 essentially. They bought GitHub like people ask for all this stuff and they're trying it. So you can't give them too much shit yet until they fuck it up. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of
But they also got to be a little worried that their favorite Azure instance is the Linux one. That's got to be deeply upsetting to them on some level.
I mean, they're making
money.
They're making Linux kernels for stuff too. Like they have that IoT stuff where they have the Linux kernel
for their Azure IoT service. Yeah.
We've almost figured out the Office 365 licensing by now, so let's find out about what the Git.
Don't worry about figuring it out. They'll figure it out for you. Just give them the credit, give them the corporate card, and you'll be fine. That's fine. And our last story, Fortnite. I just put this in here because I like these stats. Scott wrote this up. According to a market research firm, Fortnite brought in $296 million across all platforms for the month of April. Just April.
This is the free-to-play one, right?
Yep.
Free-to-play.
That's insane.
I think they only sell cosmetics.
Correct.
Like it's not even play to win.
Nope.
Or pay to win.
It's legitimately cosmetics, dances, emotes.
Maybe it's multiplayer. Maybe it's Maybelline.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying?
This news comes a few days after Epic Games announced that it had earmarked $100 million for Fortnite esports competitions.
Why not at that point?
Yeah, the prize pool,
a month.
Prize pool will be spread out over multiple events in the 2018-2019 season. And Scott says, I think they know where they got the money from.
Interestingly enough, Tencent owns a share in both Fortnite and PUBG. They own a share of Epic.
Tim Sweeney's doing pretty well.
They own a share of Bluehole.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
Say that again, Josh.
I think Tim Sweeney's doing very well for himself these days.
He's probably fine.
How do you think he feels about this? Because like this isn't like he's an engine guy, right? Like he's pushing technology forward, and the most successful thing they've ever done.
Okay, he's like,
anything.
you know what? This looks like crap, and then he opens up his bank account. He's like, you know, it's not so bad.
But he wasn't hurting before.
That's
like
true.
it's not like he suddenly got rich.
But he's hurting far less.
I would say that my impression of Tim over recent years has been that he's more of a like advocacy guy now, like advocating against Microsoft Store and the closing down of these things. And so he might see this. He might be just totally amazed by the cross-platform stuff that they've done with the mobile devices and the console devices and the PC devices all working together.
He's gone from realism to the artistic intent
of money.
I understand what they're trying to express to me through these crappy graphics.
They're not crappy.
It doesn't have crappy graphics. They actually have
cartoony art.
They have like a lot of modern post-processing effects and stuff in Fortnite. Like it's
It's just a visual style.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Whatever. You don't know what you're talking about.
All right, it's time for our picks of the week, and I don't
Are you
have
going to
any.
pick Computex?
No.
Favorite time of the year?
No, I don't
Not
have
going
any.
to Taiwan.
Tickets to Cathay Air.
In the interest of time, I'm going to not have one, and I'm going to
I
go
didn't
with.
know that was an option.
It's not
Wanker.
for everybody else.
Hmm.
Let's see. Here we go.
You think you are Tim Sweeney?
Exactly. I've got to make my $296 million 2 months ago. I'm waiting for the check still to clear. Jeremy, what do you got for us?
So I probably posted this a while ago, but the Hackaday Prize is still going on. This particular one is the Power Harvesting Challenge. So for those who desperate, and it's such a good graphic.
Wait. Is he?
No,
Whatever you
pumps?
want.
No.
They're not attached.
Whatever you want.
Okay. Well, sorry.
I know you get a little bit excited, Josh, but no.
So anyone who wants RGB thumb screws, well, why not figure out a way to turn the power of the friction of screwing it in into enough power to get your RGBs glowing? The other reason I bring it up is because last year's winner straight out went and made a solar-powered welder.
Nice.
How long does it have to charge?
Quite a while because it uses super caps, but
It's
it
still
discharges
charging.
pretty quickly.
All right.
As we like arc welding with weird things, so there
Or at
is
least pretending
serious
to.
money behind this. And for the first couple of steps of winning each of these types of the 5 different challenges, essentially all you've got to have is a decent project plan and a rough plans up on GitHub. You don't actually have to have built anything,
Nice. Okay. Fair.
so it's worth taking a look at.
And I get $1,000 if I make up a good idea.
If you make
Pretty much.
not just a good idea, if you make it.
No, I
Isn't it
know,
If you just make enough
No,
plans that it
$1,000
seems
just to get the
reasonable.
idea and show them that I can build it, and then they give you $1,000 to build it.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Up to 10 grand if you do really well.
Yeah. Aha.
Or sorry, 50 grand.
Yeah. But then you have to
Wow.
build it for that part. But I would just take
Yes.
the $1,000 is what I was saying. Potatoes. Wait, people have already done that one. Damn. Josh,
Me.
you're a frequenter of the SSDs.
Because I don't actually contract them very often.
Fair.
That explains
Anyhow,
Alan's absence.
860 Evo, 1 terabyte for $250.
I think that's
Are you
about
serious?
25 cents a gig.
How much?
That's about 25 cents per gig.
Your division is precise.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, that's really. I mean, think about it. Just a couple of months ago, it was $70 more than that for any kind of 1 terabyte SSD drive. So we're now on the nice downhill slope of prices, and because they leveled out for quite a while, but now we got new process nodes, other new technologies, 3D stacking, all these fun things. I'm thinking more VNAND rather than 3D stacking because we've done anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, $250 for a 1 terabyte fast SSD.
I like drives.
That's nice.
4 terabyte. Get the 4 terabyte, sucker.
No, I'm not going to get the 4 terabyte.
2 terabyte? 2 terabyte? 527? It's cheaper to buy two
it
ones.
just doesn't scale well in price.
Mhm,
You're
mhm.
paying $27 more.
4 terabytes is $11.90, so it's $190 more
yeah.
than buying 4 1
Yeah.
terabytes.
Yeah. So 1 terabyte.
Sweet spot. What's the 250?
Oh,
Yeah.
250 is $80. So
It's even better.
yeah, no, it's not. 4 times it's 240.
Math is
I was
hard.
thinking
Math is so
500.
hard.
Sorry.
So they have the labels
you're
at the
right.
grocery store.
8
that
times 4 is
says,
320. Yeah. Say again.
so they have the labels in the grocery store that say, so many cents per ounce.
Correct. Those are useful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why not have cents per gigabyte here? This is a needed option.
So some PC Part Picker does that. On their
Really?
prices, they have cost per gigabyte. Some of the pricing engines have that. Yeah.
Okay, so I got enough money I can afford a 309 gigabyte drive. Can you get me one?
Sure.
What can we do here? Oh well.
Work with me.
All right. And now, Ken.
So
Did you fix your printer?
Probably about a year ago, I picked the Prusa i3 Mark II. I picked up a used printer that had a couple of issues, was kind of worked a lot. And part of the thing is Prusa announced the i3 Mark III a couple of months later, of course. But it has a lot of improvements. It has a removable bed now, which really helps. So you can kind of flex the parts off of the build plate instead of using a spatula and jamming at it and sending it through your hand like I've done before. One of the things I think the people that listen to this podcast will appreciate is a Noctua fan, 40 millimeter fan for the hot end cooling instead of a generic fan now. The 3D printer enthusiasts discovered Noctua and that they make quiet fans. You can see the tan on the left hand side of the extruder there. The telltale sign. But since I already had a Mark II, they released a Mark II and a half upgrade kit for $200. It adds a lot of the new features, like it has filament runout detection, so it can sense if there's filament in it or not. So if your filament gets jammed or breaks or you run out of the spool, it'll pause the print until you insert new filament, which is nice, sort of for like running large prints overnight. There is the full i3 Mark II to Mark III upgrade available, but it's like $400 because they move from a 12 volt to a 24 volt system. So essentially all of the electronics get replaced. Yeah, it's $500. They really recommend you don't do that because it's essentially building a new printer. So if you want that, spend the $750 and buy a new printer kit. And then you have two printers. You could sell the old one. You could give it to somebody. You could do whatever. Yeah. But the Mark II and a half upgrade kit is a pretty good value. I got mine in. I have yet to install it. That's this weekend's project. So I will report back. But yeah,
Ken often brings in interesting trinkets that he has built over the weekend. Laser cutting a map of the United States, that kind of thing.
But it's nice to see a company who...
Where do you put all this stuff?
Well, the laser cutter's at my buddy's house because I'm not letting it burn down my apartment.
Burn down the buddy's house. I get you.
Prusa is a cool company because everything's open source. They develop back to the community, and they release these upgrade kits for their new printers. So it's not just, hey, we released the i3 Mark III. Sorry, suckers.
Buy that one.
Okay, well, we'll sell you the parts.
Joseph seems like a good guy.
Yeah. They put a lot of the development into the community that other companies rip off and sell cheaper versions that aren't made as well. So just buy the original. He can print just about anything on this thing.
Nice.
Can you print acrylic like Josh wants to do?
No, that's what my laser cutter's for, though.
Okay.
That's subtractive, not additive.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Oh, wait, no. Is this you, Alex?
Is.
What do you got for us?
So I had a family member who only really watches OTA broadcasts, but she was having some trouble with reception recently and kept putting it off because I really don't want to deal with this. So came across one of these, Amazon Basics, which have become a very go-to thing for me.
Just Amazon Basics everything?
Yeah. Cables, wires, random stuff.
They knock off the best products in each category.
OEMs hate them.
Yeah, that's another discussion. But anyway, so these are just a flat panel antenna.
Unpowered?
This one is not, but there is a $5 upgrade to get a powered one. And we actually went with the powered one, and it works amazingly.
Yeah, I use one of these at home. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, there's other brands that are all pretty much priced the same. That it's not Amazon Basics. It's like $2 cheaper, but whoop-de-doo.
I have it 3M
cable.
command stripped to the wall behind my TV, so you can't see it because the TV's in front of it, and I have it, and it works fine.
Yeah, they hide up real well.
Yeah.
I live down in a valley, so this doesn't work for me. I was going to have to put one in my attic, like a bigger, bulkier.
Just put a dipole on the top of the house, get into ham radio.
I'm just going to move instead to the top of the hill.
Hoity-toity.
Mine gets 5 to 7 channels depending on the day.
Yeah. I mean, if you have a good HD signal here, you get like 20.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
and super high quality.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Now that is the end of the show, everyone. We thank you for joining us. PCPer.com/podcast. That's where you can go You can find notes to all the links to all the stories we talked about in our show notes. You can find RSS feeds. You can find, if we had a sponsor, you can find the sponsor of the link. We don't have a sponsor this week.
If
Josh scared them all away.
I did, sorry.
I'm taking it out of, you're not getting the check. What else was there? I don't know, all the stuff. If you want links to the
JoshTech.com
live stream, the merch store, JoshTech.com, tech.com, all that stuff is there. We greatly appreciate everybody hanging out, and I'm sure we'll have some more Computex follow-up for next week as well. Next week.
Did you know
So
Josh
future.
Tech spelled correctly is an actual website where someone has like IT services?
Is that our Josh?
Oh, no.
No, not me.
Okay.
I don't know what country that is.
Don't go there. It's Josh Tech with 2 Ks, JOSHTEKK.com. The funny way. So that's it for us, guys. Thanks. We will see you next week. Goodbye.